So let's move on into
Agreed.
animated. So for animated, I'll say we start with the hero this time. You go first.
I mean, mine was very easy. It was Kanan.
Yeah.
Kanan's my favorite. I mean, and I don't even think it's close.
Yeah.
Like I love Ahsoka. I think she's an awesome character. Her story is fantastic, right?
Right.
Ahsoka's story is great. I'm a big Ezra fan. Like I like Ezra's arc where he grows from this obnoxious, immature kid into a Jedi, right? But Kanan's story is just, I just love his character, right? Like this guy who, comes from Order 66, loses everything, very Star Wars fashion, right? Finds a family, kind of joins up. And then I just love his arc with Ezra, like the amount of doubt and just he feels like he needs the order, right? He feels like he needs people telling him how to do this thing. But in very, very master apprentice fashion, we've seen a lot of stuff. Like he has what he needs to pass on. He just has to realize it. And, so he's just got such a great arc as various roles within the Ghost Crew, right? But especially in that arc as a teacher and as a teacher to Ezra. And so, obviously we're not going to sit here and talk about Jedi Knight. People are like, oh my gosh, these Rebel fans always talking about the Jedi Knight episode.
It's only the greatest episode of animated Star Wars, potentially the greatest episode of any Star Wars show ever made.
And one of the things I love about that episode is, so within a lot of the EU legend stuff, there was like these periods of time where certain Jedi would have these moments where, like very rare moments where they were like one with the Force, right? Like they were in the right place at the right time and just 100% connected to the will of the Force. Happens to Luke a few times. Jason Solo does it. There's a few other Jedi that do it. And to me, it feels like that in that moment for Kanan, that he has just found this place in the Force where he's supposed to be doing the right thing at the right time and just 100% at peace with it. And so that's such a cool ending for a character who's been so doubtful of himself to end it in like an ultimate place of certainty in what he's doing. So that's one of the reasons I love that ending so much.
Yeah, it's good. And also, like, even if you want to scale it back away from that episode, the other day we were watching, I say the other day, it's probably been like a month, but we were watching season 1 of Rebels. That's a really fast watch through, by the way. Like it just season 1 flies by. And when those last couple episodes, when the Inquisitors have him, like in prison, but then also he fights the Grand Inquisitor, that's so good. Then you can jump ahead. Is it it's season 2 where they fight Maul, right? Like in the Twilight of the Apprentice episodes, he's around. So those are really good for him. That's where he goes blind, I guess, at the end of season 2. Is that right?
Yeah.
So
he does.
That's good. And then season 3, he really like that. His character really starts to hone in going forward there. So yeah, I mean, it's Kanan for me too. Obviously, like I don't. You could pick Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, just from the Clone Wars. That's, I guess, a Bad Batch. Bad Batch has some compelling.
There's some great characters there. Yeah.
Hunter, very good. Tech, you could say Tech there too. What? Rex, you could say Rex. I mean, that's a great character
awesome
as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's a situation like live action. We talked about how there just didn't feel like a lot of choices.
Yeah.
I don't. Kanan's not my choice just because there's not a lot. There's a lot of really great characters in animation, and a lot that if they're your favorite, like I totally get why. So.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm with Kanan though as well. Fan. Very good as a whole picture of a character.
Yeah.
It does very, very well. They did not mess that one up, as they typically
and
don't.
He gets to be
animation.
like a giant force wolf. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
What's the guy? What that one episode where it's like the big lion bull looking thing in Rebels? What's
the Bendu. That's a cool interaction.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Those sequences are really neat. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, like you said, Ezra as well. Ezra's a good choice because what's the Yoda line in The Last Jedi? They are what we grow beyond, or something like that, like saying, like what they pass on. And you can take that line and throw it over Rebels, and you just see Ezra becoming, like, watching Kanan and becoming that. So that's really cool. The same with Luke and Obi-Wan. Like, you see that with Obi-Wan passing it on to Luke. So yeah, I mean, very Star Warsy. For villain, for me, it was a lot easier to pick, because not that there's not a lot of good animated villains. It's just, to me personally, one stands out amongst the rest, because really your options, the Clone Wars, you have a few. You've got Dooku, Grievous, Maul, Savage. He you could kind of view him, I guess, as good at times too, sort of.
Right.
But then you've got Thrawn, and I guess in the Bad Batch, what's that guy's name?
Hemlock.
Interesting. For sure.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy.
Interesting. But for me, it's
throw Inquisitors in there. Grand Inquisitor.
Well, Grand Inquisitor, that's true. He doesn't make it very long, though.
No, he doesn't. He really doesn't.
Though. That line at the very end, where he's like, some things, are scarier than death, or something like that. There's better things to fear. But yeah, Darth Maul for me, because you can take his story from the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, that last season of Clone Wars. Well, first of all, he's not even supposed to be alive. Then he is alive. Then he's like just fueled by this rage. Very good bad guy. Then the last season of the Clone Wars, Ray Park comes back and does the motion capture for that duel. He ends up like, he's almost not a bad guy in that last season. He still is, but he almost isn't, because the greater bad is, Order 66, Sidious versus the Jedi.
Yeah, he kind of knows what's coming down the pipe, and there is some desire in him to make it stop, right?
Yeah, but only out of revenge. It's not even like it's
right.
Yeah, and his story has a nice wrap up in Rebels. He shows up in Rebels. He's tricking Ezra.
He has a really good
so you've got that going on.
Yeah.
Then you've got his story ending in Rebels on Tatooine, which appropriate. He starts on Tatooine, essentially, ends on Tatooine. So very, very cool way for Darth Maul's story to be wrapped up, because you're introduced in a movie and you think you're done in a movie, and then you get like hours more of him. So for me, it's Maul.
Yeah, one of the coolest things animation did for Maul is it takes this what was really just a cool character in the Phantom Menace, right?
Yeah.
A really cool, menacing, really evil. And they've talked about it in the interviews, like the appearance, everything about him was meant to read like a demon, evil, menacing, right?
Yeah.
And the animation really took that and really gave him a really compelling character, right? Like, compelling story to who he was, who he becomes. And even at the end there where he dies at Obi-Wan's hands, like he's really, just like a lot of other people in the galaxy, he's a victim of Palpatine, right?
Yep.
And he has that moment where he's like, is this it? Is this the chosen one? Because he wants vengeance, right? He's just as mad at Palpatine as he is Kenobi.
Yeah.
And so, man, what an arc animation gave to this character from the first movie, who really cool, really menacing, gets cut in half.
He was there to sell tickets.
But becomes such an awesome primary character through a lot of Clone Wars and then Rebels, like you said. Man, it's hard to argue that there's not that there is a better villain arc throughout the animation. It is so good.
Animated Star Wars really gives him some legs.
It does. Oh man, that's good. That's good.
It's good.
Yeah, man, that was.
So is yours Maul?
It's hard for me to think that it's not Maul. Now I will also throw out a brief character, but one that I thought was really interesting, and that was Pong Krell.
Yeah, I don't like him so much.
I don't either, but he's a great villain.
Right? Yeah, like, he's a jerk.
It's really interesting to see on the side of the Republic this guy who is arguably more evil than some of the people on the other side of things, right?
He's more evil than Dooku, probably.
Yeah, I would agree, right? Like, he is just sadistic and messed up. So from a pure villain standpoint, he's a really hateable character.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess maybe that's more of an honorable mention of just somebody who's really, really villainous. But man, Pong Krell, he's a bad dude. And he's cool fighting with the dual double bladed lightsabers.
Is cool.
That's that's pretty awesome.
He's a big guy as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll throw his name in the mix, but
alien, whatever. As far as honorable mentions for me, I don't for villain. I mean, Thrawn really makes you mad. Yeah,
Thrawn's good
at the end. I mean, he's got a lot of layers behind him before you even get to him. There.
Yeah. Thrawn benefits from feeling like a character that a lot of people already knew.
He is, yeah.
Because he feels very much the same as the literary counterpart that we had before. And so that was a really good entrance for him to come in and kind of meet those expectations of what people thought Thrawn was and what he was like. Yeah. So I think they did a great job with that.
I agree. Yeah. I think outside of that, there's not personally. I don't think there's as much there to discuss.